All right, Mr. Right here with lesson 8 for the trumpet. In this lesson, we're going to be talking about single eighth notes and eighth note rest. What does it look like when you see just an eighth note that takes up only half of the beat all by itself? So we saw in lesson 7 how eighth notes divided each beat into two equal parts, the downbeat and the upbeat, or in other words, the first half of the beat and the second half of the beat. And with these notes, when you see an eighth note like this, that downbeat, that's when that first eighth note begins. It has duration and length in itself. So that's going to, when your foot taps the floor, that's when that first half of the beat begins. And when your foot is at its highest place, that's where that upbeat occurs. And that's when this second eighth note or the second half of the beat begins. So it's like one in, like the first eighth note occurs right when your foot taps the floor. Highest point of your shoe is when the eighth note or the upbeat. So the beat is divided into two parts when you have two eighth notes like that. But we have the same concept here with a single eighth note. What happens when you just slice off one of this little other eighth note right here and goes and you cut it off? Well, this little bar right here that distinguishes it as an eighth note, it kind of droops down to look like what we have right here. It's also called a flag. A single flag. Double flag would be 16th notes that we'll get to later. But this bar just droops down to form this little eighth note flag right here. So that's what an eighth note looks all like by itself. It's just a very short note, only taking up a half of a beat in 4/4 time signature. Now, you'll notice that this little strange looking deformed 7 follows right after it. It's only also this eighth note rest takes up only half the beat. So here's the first half of the beat with that eighth note, and then the second half of the beat is right there. So you have to, this is all beat 1 right there. So you have to maintain that one beat right there. And then of course this a quarter note rest right here takes up beats 2, and here's this half note rest 3 and 4. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2, 3, and here's beat 4. So it's this bop, pow. You land right on the next beat. Like for instance, in the first measure, you're going to go da, pow. You're right on that next beat because that upbeat doesn't last very long. So it's bump, pow, pow, pow. It just clicks right along. So this eighth note rest only takes up a half a beat. And that's super important to understand that duration is only on the upbeat because later on down the page, we're going to be resting on the first half of the beat and playing on the second half of the beat, which opens up a world of syncopation for us, which is pretty cool. But getting back to the top. So we got that first F sharp all by himself. You're popping him down on the downbeat, and then you'll lift up your finger to play the upbeat here, the second half of beat 1 in this measure. Then you rest on beat 2, then another eighth note. So you go 1 and 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Let me move my mouse again. 1 and 2, 3 and 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3 and 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's play number 1 here. I'm going to try to point the cursor with my left hand. Let's get the metronome going. And like again, I apologize. I'm doing 90 beats per minute. Hope that doesn't throw you off too badly. So now we're going to do number 1. If I can point with the left hand. 1, 2, 3. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. All right. And so single eighth note all by itself takes the first half of the beat. This eighth note rest takes the second half of the beat. Then below, in exercise number 2, you'll see the strange sight of eighth notes reaching around the despicable eighth note rest that have tried to come between them. So look right here. So you got an eighth note, and we stuck an eighth note rest in between it. Sometimes you'll see it this way in music. So it's kind of good to be exposed to this type of notation. And notice the downbeat here, right on that eighth, and then here's the upbeat that we're resting on. So these are sort of like quarter notes that you play really short, like staccato dots above them. We'll get into that later. But you're just playing these very short notes that only take up a half of a beat, like da, 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 dee, da, 2, 3, da, 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 da. And this is 1 and 2, 3, 4 and 1 and 2, 3, 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4. So you make these short. It's followed by an eighth note rest. So you're only playing on the first half of the beat, resting on the second half of the beat. Then here you're going 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3, rest 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 1, like that. So right here, very interesting, you're resting for a half of a beat. 1, 2 and 1, 2 and 3, 4 and, right? So let's try number 2 now. 1, 2, 3. 2, 3. All right, and number 3, here it comes. Number 3, on this second measure, number 3, we're going to rest on each downbeat and play it on the upbeats. So it'd be like and 1, and that this quarter note right here slams right into the next beat. You see, you're playing on the upbeat here, and it goes right into that next measure. So you got to be aware of that. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, like that. So slowly in this measure right here, it goes 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. So you got these little eighth note rests in here that you got to be aware of and count. So here comes number 3. And 1, 2, 3. 2, 3. 2. And then look at number 4. Here is pretty interesting because you're going to go 1 and here's beat 2. Here's beat 3. The first half of the beat 3, you're resting for that first half. And you pop the upbeat or the second half of the beat. So you're going to go 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and, right? So you're going 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and 1 and, see? And of course, this eighth note plows right into that next beat, that next downbeat. So it's 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 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 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4. Also, I want to mention this. Like up here in number 2, the 2 measures from the end, I read this as like a complete word. Like, I don't look at every last little note here. What I'm doing, my eyes will get lost. So what I do is I say, I'm just going back and forth between an F sharp and a G. I'm just going to go, it goes back and forth. And I know these are straight eighth notes. So I'm just going to, in my mind, go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and I've done exactly enough notes. I'm just counting 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and you've done exactly 8 notes, 8 eighth notes. So here comes number 4. 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3. Awesome. Number 5, we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4. Ooh, look at that measure. That's a cool, funky measure. 1, 2, and 3, and 4. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, and 3, and 4, 1. So, like I said, it starts off right here. Normally you won't see that. It's just something we want to understand that that's what we always do. When we see a crescendo, it just automatically starts softer. Number 5. Ready? 1, 2, 3. 2, 3. Let's go on to number 6. Ready? Number 6. 1, 2, 3. 3, 4. All right, so that should get you going on lesson 8 for the trumpet.